A quarter of a century in the making, and Atlantis stands taller than ever. Just behind me, this dazzling view of the resort's iconic structure is illuminated against the backdrop of the crystal clear Bahamian waters as we celebrate glamour, ultra luxury, and 25 years of pure magic that we know as the Atlantis experience. We're broadcasting from the heart of paradise here at the Atlantis Resort, and I'm beyond thrilled to be your guide on this special journey as we commemorate 25 years of unforgettable experiences and extraordinary moments at Atlantis. Tonight, we're not just celebrating a resort, we're celebrating a legend. Welcome to this special edition of On the Record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Stay tuned as we get started on the Atlantis experience on the other side of this break. This is On the Record, celebrating 25 years of Atlantis, and tonight we are pleased to welcome our featured guest who helped to run what is undoubtedly the greatest destination in this region. Atlantis President and Managing Director Audrey Oswald, along with the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Special Projects, Vaughn Roberts. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome to Atlantis. Thank you for having us.
And thank you so much for really opening your doors to us this week. We've had a fantastic time here on the property where I know our viewers have enjoyed this week of watching our newscast, and tonight we're certainly going to delve a little deeper. Well, the legendary resort has become synonymous with luxury, adventure, and a touch of enchantment that captures the essence of this breathtaking destination. From the iconic royal towers to the mesmerizing underwater world of the lost chambers, Atlantis has been a beacon of wonder for travelers from every corner of the globe. As visitors about the Bahamas, and its name is sure to come up at any point in the conversation. But before we move any further, I want to take you back 25 years to the moment we witnessed the major renaissance of Bahamian tourism and the landscape, with the opening of these towers just behind us. The mystery of the Atlantis continent may be tied to a centuries-old story, but the story of Atlantis in the Bahamas started in 1994 when the late Saul Kerzner purchased the former Resorts International.
But everyone concurs about one thing, that Atlantis, continent of Atlantis, is somewhere in the ocean. So I figured, well, let this be all about the ocean, and let's bring Atlantis out of the ocean.
Phase 1 included the renovation of the now beach and coral towers. 2 years later, Phase 2, the Grand Royal Towers, opened. It was an $800 million expansion. The spectacular Mayan Temple Waterside Complex. 6 swimming areas, the world's largest open-air marine environment with 11 million gallons of water, and the Royal Marina to host mega yachts. In total, a 14-acre waterscape of pools, waterfalls, a lazy river, and 6 exhibit lagoons, including an underwater tunnel with a shark habitat. Some of the most talented artists in the world helped to create the extraordinary vision.
But it's very, very important that technically the detail is such that it is believable, that people look at it and say, oh, wow. And even if people don't notice all the detail, they'll feel it.
In December of 1998, the Royal Towers at Atlantis officially opened, unveiling some iconic images like this that are still synonymous with the hotel even today. But at that time, it brought what could easily be described as the party of the century.
Behold, Atlantis rising from the sea!
Over 60 A-list artists, names like Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, Stephanie Mills and Natalie Coles and Quincy Jones, to name a few, and dignitaries, including an American business mogul named Donald Trump, descended on the Bahamas for the party of the century. For a young 20-something-year-old reporter, it was the assignment of a lifetime. As a part of the two-day live broadcast, I was able to snag some of the biggest names in the business: Oprah Winfrey, Natalie Cole, Stephanie Mills, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and Sidney Poitier. All filed past our cameras for the 2 days. The Royal Towers brought with it a 1,200-room hotel and $650 million resort and casino with museum-quality works of art, glass sculptures valued at $1 million each, and a rejuvenated gaming environment. Tourism in the Bahamas was about to undergo the greatest renaissance in decades. I still get goosebumps.
Me too.
Having been there 25 years ago. Audrey, I want to start with you looking at that. What do you feel when you see that and know, just looking at what that time meant for us?
Well, it was such an exciting time. And although I was not here, I had the great fortune of knowing the Kersners and being part of it from a distance, if you will. But, it makes me think every day, keep top of mind, how do we meet that expectation that Saul set way back in 1998 with the opening. So in everything that we do, I always think of him frequently to say, whatever it is, I want him to be proud.
Sure. Vaughn, from a Bahamian perspective, this meant so much for the country. When you look at that, what is the responsibility that you feel, for what this property means for the country?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not just the moment in 1998 and what it meant for the Bahamas in terms of the transformation of tourism, but it's every moment since then. As a young professional, you came to know Atlantis as being sort of like the engine of the economy for many years. And it wasn't obviously until Bahamar came on the scene recently that the economy was expanded and tourism was expanded in a significant way. But all I knew kind of growing up as a professional was Atlantis, and Atlantis really set the standard for the experience in the resort here, but also brought more broadly for what we were going to experience as Bahamians in the community. And so now today, with that backdrop, it's a significant responsibility that I take very seriously to sort of secure the future of Atlantis, because it has meant so much to so many people, and it will continue to mean so much for our Bahamas.
Audrey, what has it been like around here as you're celebrating the 25 years? When I was reminded that we were celebrating this 25th anniversary early in the year, I paused and I said, has it been that long? But give us a sense of what it's been like around the property.
Well, there's a lot of excitement around it. Certainly our team members are very excited. Our guests are thrilled to have the opportunity to join in the celebration. A few weeks ago, we had our celebration, which we made sure we held it in the casino. We wanted everybody to see the newly renovated casino, but what was most important to me was that it wasn't just for invited guests. Everybody that was at the resort, including all of our team members, because the party was held in a public place, they all got to celebrate. And it was a great celebration, one that made us all very proud to be part of the Atlantis family.
Vaughn, I want to talk a little bit about the milestones and achievements that have been most significant from this property from your perspective.
Yeah, I think, there's definitely been some very significant economic impacts of this. I mean, if you just think about the number of jobs that have been created in the economy, at some point in the past, we were up to like 8,500 jobs, direct jobs. And obviously there's a spin-off from that, from indirect and, our suppliers hiring people, the taxi industry, everybody employing. So the spin-off was much greater than that, probably up to 12,000 jobs at one point. Those jobs get, those employees get wages, and that puts money into the economy. There's been a number of people who've been able to build very successful large businesses here at Atlantis, starting at Atlantis and growing into significant businesses. And we should also remember that, there's been a dramatic increase in the number of visitors coming to our shores. And those visitors not only spend money with Atlantis, but they spend money elsewhere, including the taxi, the straw markets, and all that stuff. And then finally, the government and our economy in terms of the gross domestic product has seen significant impact as resulting from Atlantis over the years. And so, it's been far-reaching. And usually when governments undertake projects like this and make concessions to do these, they always want to think about how it's going to pay back to the people of the Bahamas. And I think this project has paid back by long shots.
Audrey, looking back over the past 25 years, what challenges did Atlantis face in the early days? And, from your perspective, how has the resort evolved really to overcome some of those obstacles?
I think that, one of the greatest challenges in the early days was people didn't know what to expect. So, hospitality, while there was a hospitality and tourism industry in the Bahamas, nothing to the level of Atlantis. So it was a little bit challenging to get the training programs together, to have people understand exactly what Sal's vision was when it was still under construction and all they could see is photos. Today, fortunately, we have the experience, we have the building, we have the ability for team members to walk through and experience firsthand the level of service and the experience that we're trying to provide to our customers. So it becomes much easier than it was 25 years ago.
Can you share some of the insights into the initial vision for Atlantis and how that vision has shaped the resort's development and growth over these years?
Sure. Well, Sal was a great visionary, as was his son Butch. So they had this wonderful vision of the lost city of Atlantis. And fortunately, the government of the Bahamas had the courage to say, okay, and let him come in and redevelop the existing properties and then build the Royal and expand over the years. So, it's just been a continuous evolution of what Sal's early vision was. And, the original core value and mission statement of Atlantis was blow away the customer. And that was Sal's mantra. Whatever we did, it had to be over the top. He wanted to make sure that he exceeded expectations for our guests, for government, for all of our team members, and that stuck with us over the years, and we still strive to do that.
Well, I've got to ask you, how do you continue to do that 25 years later? I mean, you think, okay, we're going to blow you away, but how do you come every day? That has to be there. How do you motivate, your team to do that every day?
In some things, believe it or not, get easier over time, and this is one of them. We constantly evolve, so we're always, over the years, have been adding on new sections of aquaventure. We bring in new marine life and marine mammals, so there's always some new offering to our guests. We're very excited that in a few weeks we'll be launching the Junkanoo show, Junkanoo in Paradise, which is a cultural show we've developed with Roots and will be offered to our guests. But over the years, because our team is so experienced, and they're not new at what they're doing anymore. Many of our team members have been here for 20 years, 30 years, some even 40 years. They're so comfortable with the guests, and they're just able to interact with them in a natural way. And that's really the best feedback we hear constantly from guests, and it's consistent that our team members are just so great. They share their stories, they share the culture, and that's what people come here to see. Not only the beautiful building and the great experiences with marine mammals and with our ocean preservation programs, but they want to experience the culture of the Bahamas, and that comes through our team members that feel comfortable enough to act naturally and share their stories.
And I have to tell you, even as a Bahamian, having been on this property numerous times, and even now this week, it's the authenticity of the staff that always stands out to me. You know, and as a Bahamian, they're not going to put on any airs. They're going to be very authentic with us. But I always appreciate it. And so, you know, I do want to take an opportunity, certainly, to point that out. But Vaughn, let's talk about Atlantis today. The key components of the resort, your mission and values, employees, and the work that you're doing for the culture and the community.
Yeah, so our mission is really to be the most remarkable destination resort in the world, you know, and that starts really with being the best here in the Bahamas, the best in the Caribbean, the best in the Western Hemisphere, and then morphing to the world. And so we take it very seriously, you know, what we deliver to our guests, the experience we deliver on a day-to-day basis. You know, culture is an important part of that. We know just from insights that we get from the travel trade that really guests are looking for deeper, more richer, authentic experiences. And so we are very deliberate and intentional around how we bring culture into the resort. So our guests feel like they're experiencing a part of the place and the people of the Bahamas. And that's very important. And you'll see us do more of that as we move into the future as well.
All right. Well, our news has been broadcasting from the Atlantis Resort for the celebration while here on the property. The team has taken our audience on a journey across the resort. And we've learned a lot about the art, the decor, the scenic landscape, along with, you know, world-renowned service. These things aren't only attractions for the guests, but they're attractions for Bahamians as well who visit this property. So Dolphin Cay is home of the Caribbean's first animal rescue and rehabilitation hospital, along with lots of fun, of course, and interactive activities. So our Marlena Leonard recently got an up-close and personal look at it. Let's take a look.
At Dolphin Cay, it originally started dealing with a sort of a stranding situation. Back in 2005, Gulfport, Mississippi was completely destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. And that's how the whole concept of Dolphin Cay got started. Those 17 animals were brought down here, temporarily housed down at Club Med. And that's where original training sort of started to take place while Dolphin Cay was being built.
Now the Dolphin Cay marine habitat boasts over 35 bottlenose dolphins in their 14 acres of lagoons and white sandy beaches.
For me, I think Dolphin Cay has one of the most diverse animal programs that you can find. We have things like something just if you want to do something more laid back, we got the kayaking experience, the paddle boarding with the animals. And then if you're more daring and you want to get in and touch the animals, we have other programs like that as well.
Today we're actually going to get in the water and interact with some of these dolphins. I am so excited to do this, but first we got to suit up. All right, and now we're suited up, and we actually just found out we're going to get to check out and hang out with some of the baby dolphins today. So I'm really excited to see, are they like puppies of the sea? What are they going to be like? Let's find out.
We met Valentina, you guessed it, born on Valentine's Day, and Bay, born on March 6th.
And what I'm going to have you try, we normally don't do this, but they look very comfortable. So I'm going to let you take 2 steps forward and see if you can get a rub down. You'll be one of the first getting a rub down from the babies. Now this is Scary Bay, so she may be a bit skittish with it. They're like, oh, you can't touch me, haha. But I guarantee you, my brave girl Valentina will be okay. There she is.
And Rico showed us a little bit of what the girls have been learning. Fetch, as Valentina showed off when returning the ball. As a dolphin behaviorist for almost 20 years, we asked Enrico what it is that makes his role so special.
And the bond that you build with them, you know, is very important because once they stop eating, they don't rely on fish anymore. So I think that's the true test of being a good behaviorist is when your animal is down and out and doesn't have the best appetite, are you able to keep that animal's attention? Does that animal, is he really there for you or is he there for the fish alone? And when you find out he's there for you and because he's not really feeling the food, I think that's the most magical and experience about being a behaviorist, yeah.
Oh, Marlena Leonard getting involved. I just want to say, too, that she's an animal lover and she even had an interaction with the dog. So this has been good for me, too, for my staff, because they're quite happy working here. But let's talk a little bit about sustainability and environmental consciousness. How has Atlantis embraced responsible practices throughout its 25-year history, and what initiatives are in place to ensure a sustainable future?
Well, we've embraced conservation from the early days. It's always been part of what Atlantis is about, from recycling of pallets and cooking oil, used tires, to our mangrove outplanting. We now have a coral nursery. Most recently, in the last couple of years, we've banned plastics from the resort. So we've converted to all biodegradable products in place of that, or paper where feasible. But in Dolphin Key especially, that team, along with all of our aquaventure team, are very focused on mangrove outplanting. We have several areas where we grow mangroves at the resort and then work with Bahamas National Trust for the outplanting portion of that. We have coral growing around the resort. And whenever there's a need, I recall probably about 4 or 5 years ago, conch was being overfished. So we started a conch nursery. And because the majority of our employees are Bahamian, they are constantly staying up on what's news and what's happening around the country, and they rise to the challenge to meet those needs, whatever they are.
Juan, how has the resort maintained its distinctive identity while adapting to the diverse cultural context and markets? And I want to sort of back up a bit. I know there was a time when we heard complaints from the public that it didn't feel as Bahamian, but I know that you all have really been very deliberate in some of the things that you have done. So I guess back to my question, how have you maintained your identity while adapting to the cultural context and market?
Yes, I think the resort was designed as a very iconic sort of structure, right? The architecture is very iconic. And I think 25 years later, Bahamians have come to own the architecture and the name of Atlantis, right? And although there are now other Atlantis properties around the world, it all started here. And I think Bahamians take great pride in knowing that this is the first Atlantis property. And just flying in on a plane, and this is sort of the first structure you sort of see, right? So we've all kind of come to own it now, and that's pretty special, I think, in terms of just how we play that in terms of our guests. So our guests, we have guests who've come often and repeatedly. There are guests who came when their kids were little, and now their kids are coming with their kids. And so it's really become this sort of multi-generational resort destination that have been attracting families for the last 25 years. And I think that the Atlantis brand, and with the backdrop of the Royal Towers, has really become sort of this global phenomenon that people are drawn to. And so Bahamians take great pride when the guests come into the resort, because we now own the resort in a way, and that carries through in the execution of the service, I think.
And this is for either of you. I mean, I note the deliberate steps taken to bring Bahamian brands and foods and other things to the property that weren't there before, and that seemed very, very deliberate on your part.
I think today's traveler is, more purposeful and looking for authentic cultural experiences. They want to experience the destination that they go to, and we always use the example, when you go to Mexican, you try the Mexican food. But when you come to the Bahamas, you have to try everything that's Bahamian. And so we started integrating more Bahamian experiences at the resort and offering them to our guests over the last 6 to 7 years, and we find that that's what our guests are gravitating to. So places like Bimini Road, where you have authentic Bahamian cuisine, allows our guests to experience the culture, and it certainly allows our guests to experience the team members and the authenticity of their interactions and what it's like to live in the Bahamas, to tell their stories, to tell stories about Atlantis firsthand from somebody local that lives it every day.
Another area I want to touch on really is technology, and how has technology played a role in shaping the guest experience, particularly, with all of the advancements over the past 25 years. 25 years ago, we didn't have nearly the technology we have today. Life was very, very different, How has the technology really helped to shape the experience?
Well, I would say we embrace technology wherever we can, and I think that we've probably introduced a lot more technology in the back of the house, the areas that are not necessarily guest-facing, but certainly affect customer service. Many of our areas, you'd be surprised that we're still I don't want to say back in the old days, but we stuck with how we originally started, because we want the guests to get that whole experience. So there's areas where we could have automated, but we choose not to, so that the guests get to see what it's really like every day. And one of those programs are training programs, where we allow guests to go into Dolphin Key and act as a trainer for the day. And we've added on junior trainer of the day. Some of those things that we could have automated, preparing fish food, and actually working with the animals. we've allowed all of that to remain manual so that the guests get to experience it firsthand.
And that's a good thing. I think, oftentimes we see technology as a convenience, but what it does for me sometimes, it really takes the humanity out of things because you don't have those personal interactions, that you used to. So we applaud you on that.
Jerome, but we're also starting to look at data, right, and mining data in a way that allows us to service our guests and actually target our guests in terms of marketing opportunities in a more effective way. Social media has changed how people receive information, and so we're on social media in a big way, doing a lot of digital marketing. There are some also very simple, practical applications of technology here where, if we have a VIP group coming in-house, everybody who has to touch that group is in a WhatsApp chat, so we kind of know, and people can know how that group is moving around the resort. So we use technology as we need to, in order to improve our service execution. And then obviously we're now focused on, as we think through the future, the whole world is looking at data and how you can anticipate the needs of your customer and your guests better and target them better.
I'm going to put in a plug for your digital marketing. It's always in my feed.
Wait till you see our Christmas card this year. We did our first digital Christmas card, so you'll get to experience technology firsthand.
I am looking forward to it, and I have to tell you, we're going to go to a break in a minute, but I have to tell you, it's really a good way for me to keep up with what's happening here. There's always something happening, and it's always in my feed, so I always know what's going on here, over at the resort. So kudos to your digital marketing team. They're doing a great job. Well, we've got much more to get to as we celebrate 25 years of Atlantis. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the pandemic, its impact on the industry, how it moved Atlantis to pivot, as well as we talk about community and how Atlantis has been a beacon of hope for many. This is On the Record. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to this edition of On the Record, celebrating 25 years of the Atlantis experience with the Managing Director and President Audrey Oswell, along with the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Special Projects, Vaughn Roberts. I want to jump right back into our conversation. Just before the break, we talked about the pandemic and its impact on the tourism industry, as well as the Atlantis Resort's commitment to community. But before we get to that, I do want to ask about the Atlantis experience again. Visitor arrivals and spending nights, and give us some idea of the impact of what that has meant for the country and the economy over these 25 years.
Well, over the years, we've welcomed in excess of 8 million customers and guests to the hotel. That's unique individuals, certainly not room nights. And, the impact has been great. It's allowed us to certainly expand the property over the years. The opening of the Royal is what we call phase 2 of the resort, and then the Cove and the Reef came after that in 2007. So it certainly enabled us to expand. And I think, in terms of employment and career opportunities for local Bahamians to be able to join the organization and grow throughout the years and go into senior positions, has been phenomenal for us to be able to make that offering. And certainly the money put into the economy. And I think Vaughn alluded to it earlier in the conversation that not only is it the direct jobs that Atlantis has created, which we have over 6,000 team members now, but the indirect jobs, the people that we hire to perform services for us. Many businesses locally were formed because Atlantis hired them, and they provide valuable services to us. We have many business partners that have been partners of ours since the day we first opened.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the economic impact, but Audrey, another thing top of mind for professionals across any industry is employment and wages. Global inflation has made it an even more pressing issue for people. Walk us through your approach to this, particularly with this new generation of workers.
The new generation of workers are welcome, certainly in our workforce, but they're very different than my generation or the older generation of workers. So, we've had to adapt some of our practices and adapt some of our policies because they think differently than we did. The work ethic today is very different. What's important to the younger staff is not necessarily what top priority to the older staff. So, we make an effort to blend everybody's needs and everybody's beliefs together to get the best product for all of us. But we've had to be flexible and we've adapted over the years.
One of the things that I've noticed, I remember when you first started, it was a very strict dress code and policy.
Yes.
But I noticed that's changed. And it's refreshing, I'll tell you, for me sometimes, because to me it gives visitors the more authentic experience. We don't all look alike.
It definitely does. And it's funny that you bring that up because I can remember years ago sitting around the table and we're saying, no tattoos, absolutely no tattoos. And we recently relaxed that policy and we said to one another, sat around the table like, who cares? As long as it's not offensive. Who cares if someone has a tattoo or a guy wants to wear an earring in his ear? Again, as long as it's not offensive or, putting them in jeopardy in their job, let them do what they want to do. Like you said, the guests enjoy it. It feels more authentic.
For sure. So, Vaughn, Atlantis obviously has a major impact on the country's gross domestic product. Can you give us some insight here, particularly as so many don't really understand the impact of the resort on the community?
Yeah, for sure. So, GDP is sort of the value of the output of a country in any given year. And Atlantis has historically been a significant contributor to that. I mean, I think before, from the period of 1995 to just before Baha Mar opened, we were the largest private sector contributor to that, and probably getting up to 12% of GDP was contributed by Atlantis. Now the economy has expanded, the country has grown over the years as well. And so, our GDP input on an annual basis now is about $50 million, which, I think the country's GDP overall is maybe at 11 or 12 billion. So we're probably about 8%, 7-8% of GDP, but still significant in terms of the impact. And that's only one measure. We also contribute significantly, obviously, to government revenues and taxes that helps the government to provide services to the country and to the citizens of the Bahamas. And so a very important contributor, still the largest private sector employer, and still the largest private sector local company.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Atlantis as a market leader. What would you say puts it at the top of the list?
There's nothing else like it. That clearly puts it at the top of the list. And, the fact that we keep evolving, we are a multi-generational resort. We have many families that come to visit us, and I hear the stories, from one individual in particular who said to me, he goes, my grandparents brought me here as a child, and now I'm bringing my grandchildren here. Wow. And there's something, what's unique about us is there's something for everybody, no matter what your age is, what experiences you've had. Some people come for the sun, the sand, and the ocean. And then there's many others that are looking for a more purposeful experience, and they want to hear about our rescue and rehabilitation programs with the marine life. And they want to, our mangrove project that I mentioned earlier in the conversation, that used to be one that just our team members participated in, where they would go with Bahamas National Trust and outplant mangroves. Now guests are asking to be part of that experience, and we're able to allow them to have that experience that they might not get at home. So, there's something for everyone, and I think that contributes to the success. I think certainly the beautiful backdrop of the Bahamian waters helps contribute, and again, our team, they really do. I can't say it enough. They make such a difference, and I hear that all the time from guests is, they're blown away by how great our team members are, and that whole, Bahamas at heart, which we use a lot to reference the interactions with our guests from our team members.
And, there are even some of us who just want to come for the getaway. Just come for a weekend getaway and enjoy the dining and the pool, and that works as well. I do want to use that to sort of segue to talk about how the traveler has evolved. and really what that means for today's hospitality industry and even the future, because what travelers are looking for has changed dramatically for me as I've noticed it. I certainly am sure that you all see the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, guests want to hear about, where the product is coming from. Is there, if it's in a restaurant, is there locally grown product? And they care about conservation. They want to know, that you're doing the right thing for the environment. They care about what the whole experience and how it's crafted. A lot of them want to hear the history of the resort. They love to hear the legend of the lost city of Atlantis. But what we find today is just in general, the travelers they're more experiential. They're looking for experiences that are immersive, that they can participate in. They don't want to watch. They love walking through the dig and seeing all the fish, and then they come out the other end, and they love that marine life, but then they come out from that experience and they say, okay, now we want to get in the water with them. So a lot more opportunities for people to scuba dive or snorkel and really interact with the marine life one-on-one.
One of our anchors, Kenino Knowles, got an opportunity to snorkel earlier this week and move around with some of the marine life. Hats off to him. Vaughn, of course, the reality is in a resort like this and in many others, it's not all, unicorns and glitter. It's not always the perfect environment every day. This resort, like others, like other resort destinations, has its issues. How are you stepping out in front of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've had 25 years of success, phenomenal success, right? And sometimes as an entity, as an individual, you get sort of like trapped in your success. And so it's important for us, and because we have, guests coming to the resort every day, and new guests coming to the resort every day and telling us what their experience is like. So we have information and we study the market trends, and we know that we need to move out of our own way sometimes in order to deliver more value to the guests. And so we're constantly doing that. And I think, in the moment that we're in now, this point about market leadership really is about stepping out front, right? Because we've been comfortable for 25 years and we've been hugely successful. And so now we have to step out front as the industry is changing, as people's preferences and all that stuff is changing. We've got to step out front on all these things. Squarely, we're a family resort. And that's always, I think, always going to be who we are, right? And it works well for the market that we serve, coming from North America. It works well for what the Bahamas offers in a destination, and I think we play to that very well, and we perhaps own that. For the Bahamas, that whole family experience. So I think there are a couple of important points for us. One is to continue to kind of play to and improve the amenities, add to the experiences around entertainment, add new offerings in the water park and elsewhere. We have a demographic of people coming to the resort today. The person who's a 12-year-old or 14-year-old. Who really is informing their parents' decision to come here, that we have to make sure that what we offer for them is satisfactory to them, and they're wowed by the experience here. So it's a whole lot of like just being out front and being responsive and trying to anticipate what the guests want.
Something you mentioned really will help to segue into a greater discussion. Atlantis has made massive infrastructural upgrades recently, which we'll discuss with you, our guests, in just a moment. But before that, here's a look at a major transformation of the world-class casino.
Blackjack, craps, slots, buffalo links, and poker. The Atlantis Casino is where thousands of people from across the world comes to play. The casino, almost a 24-hour operation, is said to be on par with some of the top casinos in the world, attracting hundreds of high rollers used to high-stakes games.
We have $1 million players that they visit casinos from around the world. They come here. We get everybody talks so highly about Atlantis, our casino, our staff. We do have an amazing staff. Our gaming staff could compare with anywhere in the world. I've been to casinos in Atlantic City and Vegas, and we're right up there.
Vice President of Casino Operations George Daly has been a part of the casino since its inception. He says seeing it evolve over the years has been an experience of a lifetime, and most recently the casino got a major upgrade.
You see, the casino is totally transformed from what it used to be. It's much brighter. To me, when they opened up the first phase of the construction, it looked like I was actually walking into Vegas, a Vegas casino when I walked in.
If you have come to the resort for a midnight cocktail, then you already know the swanky moon bar that sits just off the casino, which has also been extended, and a new semi-private gaming area was constructed.
During the poker tournament, we actually added a live poker game in there at nights as well for high-end clientele at the poker room.
And if casino lovers want to take a break, there's always Bar Soul, where you can choose from a variety of specialty drinks, including this Blue Agave, which tastes amazing.
And as for the best part of the job, the VP says,
Meeting people, new faces. We get a lot of repeat business, and that's been happening for time immemorial. From the old casino, we've had people been coming here from they were kids. We've seen them grow up and gotten married and bringing their families here.
All right, Talia Hall reporting. I just want to say we have been working hard all week. So our team has really been, getting involved. But tell us, how is it that you've been able to keep Atlantis looking tall and strong, in these 25 years? This is not an easy operation. How have you been able to keep it tall and strong? I'm going to use those words.
Well, we have a lot of help, first of all, a lot of good people that know what they're doing, whether it comes to design, maintenance, construction, so that certainly plays a part. But we always, when we're looking at a project and we're going to redesign like we did with the casino, what's top of mind is not to lose our DNA. We want to stay true to the lost city of Atlantis. And that certainly was a part of our designing the casino. And if you look at the carpets closely enough, you see that the design in the carpet is actually the tail of a fish. So with multiple colors, and certainly our designers took some opportunity to enhance it. But making sure that it's going to be comfortable for our guests. I always ask myself, would Saul be proud of this? I knew him well, and I know what was important to him. And, I remember him saying to me once, promise me, Audrey, you will never paint the Royal Tower a different color, that you'll always keep that color. And so I knew what was important to him in a lot of ways through conversations. And I always asked myself, would he like this? Would it make him proud? And is it true to our DNA of the lost city of Atlantis?
Good. You could not have gotten better instructions. I definitely have to tell you that. So the resort was born here by virtue of that. It's truly Bahamian, which means commitment to community, and the community was built in. What would you say your efforts have been like in helping to build the community outside of this resort?
It's been phenomenal. I mean, I remember even before coming to work for Atlantis was in the community doing everything. The Montague revitalization effort, funded in part by Atlantis. What happened at Arawak Key and Long Wharf Beach, you would see Atlantis, funding provided by Atlantis all over the place. And we've got charitable organizations that we've funded and supported for 20 plus years. And so our reach in the community is so widespread. What I found very interesting when I got here is it isn't just the corporate effort, but our 6,000 team members, they're on their own reaching into our community and organizing themselves and taking care of their community. So like recently we did a food drive to provide some food during Thanksgiving for geriatric homes. And it was like, we raised 4 tons of food, and it was like oversubscribed. We ended up having to take to the homes and also taking the remainder to the Ramfley home, right? So there was just so much. And this is all our team members coming up, stepping up to the plate. There is so many activities like that our teams, our divisions, our departments organize on their own, that we're just now trying to get our arms around it so we can report out that not only this is what we do on a corporate basis, but there are all these other things that's happening.
And that is so commendable, that there are individual efforts outside of companies, because oftentimes the reality is we wait on company to lead, but that's very encouraging to hear that our people are out there doing on their own. And focusing on community became an even bigger priority with the recent global health crisis brought on by COVID-19. I want to know, how has COVID-19 really impacted Atlantis, and what strategies were implemented to navigate the challenges and ensure the safety and well-being of guests and staff throughout and even as we came out of the pandemic?
Well, I would say, first of all, that COVID certainly heightened our awareness of, what's important and what comes first. And we're an organization that we always put our guest experience first. We put our team members and our marine life and everything that makes Atlantis successful right at the top also. And, I can remember the day when we closed the property for COVID back in March of 2020, and walking through the hallways of it being empty, and we had turned off the fountains to conserve energy, and just, it was such an eerie feeling after the life that had been there, and especially coming off of festive and then spring break, and it was such a busy time, and then all of a sudden to see it shut down. And I would say, I've had a long career in the hospitality industry, and shutting down the resort and putting so many people out of work was by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But it gave us time to reflect during that closure period and say, all right, how can we do things better? How can we do things differently? And when our team members and our guests return, how can we make sure that everybody was safe? Fortunately, we have as being part of the Marriott Bonvoy program, we were able to tap into some of their resources on practices for COVID, because some of their properties stayed open during the pandemic. But bringing people back, it was just a greater sense of camaraderie, a greater sense of appreciation for one another, and across the board, just a great sense of the fact that we're a team and we're all codependent on one another. There's not one of us that can do their jobs without someone else standing beside them. And that sense of we all contribute to the success of the resort. We might contribute differently, but we all contribute equally. I think there was just a much heightened awareness of that coming out of the pandemic.
And, we're all grateful that we came through as we did. And I remember, the day that you welcomed your first guests, and from a media perspective, what that signals to the country, the fact that you had opened your doors again. It really gave us hope that we were back on the road to recovery. Something that Audrey talked about, Vaughn, that I want to sort of use to springboard into our next question is partnerships and collaborations. This company has been engaged in a lot of offerings over the years and bringing partnerships together. What are some of the things that you are most proud of, as a company, that those kinds of partnerships and collaborations that you still have ongoing that help to do so many things outside of the property?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of big things. One is we are very much a partner with the industry here through the Bahamas Hotel Tourism Association and through other industry groups like the Nassau Paradise Island Promotion Board, where we take a very intentional sort of role in those organizations to sort of chart where the industry is going, policies, training programs, and all those things. And so that's been helpful for us over the years, and we've led in many ways. Even coming out of the pandemic, our involvement has led to wider practices and policies that the whole industry could adopt here in the Bahamas. We've also had a number of partnerships just with the local community. Our partnership with the government of the Bahamas and the people of the Bahamas has been very strong from the very beginning. Saul Kersner didn't get to do this without a very strong partnership with the government. Sure. It's not easy to build something like this in a destination like this, and it requires a very strong partnership. And that partnership has continued with successive governments, and obviously I'm sort of the key person in managing that relationship with the government now, and it's something we take very seriously. And then we have a bunch of other, partnerships that are valuable to us. Audrey talked about the Marriott partnership. We have partnerships from our marketing organization, partnerships that help us in the execution of our services here. So, there are transportation companies that we work with. There are all these suppliers and vendors that we work with that help us to deliver what we do here. But I think I would put forth that our biggest partner has been the government and the people of the Bahamas in order to make this successful.
And I will agree with you on that. I think the Bahamian people have walked, arms locked with Atlantis from the very beginning. And I can tell you, it wasn't always, I think something, Audrey, you said in the beginning, that people didn't know what to expect. And I remember as a young journalist 25 years ago, covering stories where there were a lot of concerns from the people within the industry, outside, just not knowing what this was going to, what this meant for the country, that so many of our people were going to be employed on a single property. And that was a huge concern, And so you guys have balanced that well over these 25 years, I think. This resort is really famous for a lot of the high-profile events, one or two that I've been a part of, as celebrities that come here. What strategies do you employ to maintain that sense of exclusivity, as well as cater to the needs of your discerning clientele?
Well, we've always been known for our entertainment and events, and we say that Atlantis is in the hospitality industry, but I say Atlantis is in the entertainment industry, because that's what it's about at the end of the day, is making sure you entertain your guests in multiple ways so that they have a unique experience. So it's an important piece of it, but again, you don't want to be one-dimensional. It's not about just having Michael Jackson or Lizzo, or we most recently had Lionel Richie appear. It's not just about that entertainment. It's making sure that, from the moment they step foot on the resort to the moment that they leave, there's always something different and something new. And, many people ask why we don't have better wayfinding signage, because guests sometimes can't find their way. Now, of course, with technology, we have a mobile app that has GPS. But I asked that question of Butch once, and he said, my father designed the outdoors. He wanted Atlantis to be a constant discovery. And if you notice, the paths outside of Aquaventure, very few of them are straight. Most of them curve, because he wanted you, every time you turned a curve, to discover something new at Atlantis. And, I used to get upset when customers were leaving, and I would be talking to them, and I said, did you get to see this? And they were like, no, we missed that. We didn't hear it. But it's great, because I realize now, when they keep coming back, and we have so much repeat visitation, it's a whole new experience. Every time they come back, they're experiencing something different.
I have to concur, because I consider myself a resident Atlantis expert. But this past week, I have really been on a journey of discovering it. Well, when did this happen? Or I didn't know this was here. Or when did this come along? And so you're right. Looking ahead, what exciting developments and projects can guests expect from Atlantis in the next chapter?
We have a few more new restaurants that are going to be opening. We have some great we just spoke about entertainment. We have some great entertainment booked already for next year that's going to be announced next year. We have some new marine life programs that we'll be introducing. We're actually in the process now of looking at an expansion of Dolphin Key so that we can bring another marine mammal experience different from the sea lions and the dolphins that we have today. We hope to be able to execute on that this year, early in 2024, and open it in fall of 2024.
Nice, exciting stuff. Vaughn, we've talked about what's happening on property from a community perspective. This resort has a really great reputation, with the work that it's done in the community. From that perspective, what can we look forward to, in the coming years?
Yeah, we've been out front, and we've been the leader, I think, locally in terms of like corporate giving to the community and just corporate contributions. And I think you'll continue to see us do that. I mean, it's sort of in our DNA, right? Even our team members are doing it. And so, we tried to be, over the last 2 years since I joined, we tried to be sort of strategic in doing it. And we want to try to cause more companies to approach this more strategically as well. So you'll see us do some partnerships. We execute here a phenomenal golf tournament that benefits the Governor General's Youth Awards. And we basically have a bunch of corporate people come in and play, and they make donations to it. And we raise about $100,000 a year for the Governor General's Youth Awards, which really funds all these programs in the schools throughout the Bahamas with kids. So we're going to do more things like that leverages our dollars and other dollars in the community to make bigger impact. And I think it's also important for us to be intentional about reporting on the impact that we're doing, just so we have a scorecard and helps us to keep building on top of it year after year.
Well, I just want to say two things. When Atlantis calls, people come, they come. And so when you raise, people show up, when you call. And secondly, please feel free. We love to tell good stories. So feel free anytime to invite us back to tell the good stories. So what an incredible journey it has been tonight. We've delved into the heart and soul of Atlantis' 25th anniversary, and I must say, it's nothing short of spectacular. I want to extend our deepest gratitude to the visionaries who joined us here, the President and Managing Director of Atlantis, Audrey Oswald, and Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Special Projects, Vaughn Roberts. Thank you both for giving us a glimpse into the magic that is Atlantis. Your passion, dedication, and commitment to creating a world-class destination have truly helped to shape the legacy of this resort. Now, before we wrap up, any final thoughts from both of you on this momentous occasion? Vaughn?
I think the 25 years is really a celebration for our team members. You know, the 6,000 people who work here today and the many more who worked here in the past and have set their careers here. And then also for the people of the Bahamas. I mean, without Atlantis over the last 25 years, our trajectory would be so different. And so we really are celebrating that, and it's been all of our success.
Sure. Audrey?
Yeah. I would just add that, you know, the partnership with the Bahamian government, with the community, with all of our team members, and those that may have worked here in the past and don't work here any longer, or those that have watched and seen neighbors and family members work here. It's been such a great partnership over the years. And, you know, we thank all of them. We thank the community for their support. We thank government for their ongoing support. And having the courage, again, to allow us to step out and do the things that we do and be the industry leader, take chances. You know, and most importantly to our team members who really are the contributing factor to differentiating us from any other resort anywhere around the world, because, you know, they're committed, they're passionate, and they care about the success of Atlantis, and certainly they care about the guests that they take care of.
Most definitely. Well said, both of you.
Thank you.
And thank you again for being so gracious to us this week.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Here's to the next chapter of Atlantis, filled with adventure, wonder, and unparalleled experiences. And to our viewers at home, thank you for joining us on this special broadcast celebrating the 25th anniversary of Atlantis. From all of us here in paradise, good night. And may your dreams be as extraordinary as the magic of Atlantis. Once again, I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. We'll see you next time right here on The Record.